What's going on, guys? It's Phoenix, back for another video. It's not really a comeback, but yeah. Really quickly, before I touch on the subject matter here, I want to touch base on Combiner Wars Bruticus here. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, because it is an official Hasbro release and it's Bruticus, but for a mainline combiner, for those of us who cannot really afford any of the third-party Brutici that are out there right now, this is really good. I'll be perfectly honest, the main things that are bugging me is the fact that when you go to move Blastoff and Vortex, who I have as the arms, obviously, the parts of Onslaught back here do have a tendency to move and come untabbed. That's a known problem with the mold, though. The fact that still on Onslaught and this mold, the legs in here are a little bit wobbly, and it's honestly kind of hard to get them to pose stock straight without looking awkwardly down or whatever. That, and for some reason, I don't know why this bugs me more with Bruticus than any of the other Combiner Wars combiners, because I have Menasor, Defensor, and Superion. But the proportions of just the arms to the torso just seem a little bit off to me. He is very beefy and awesome, so I'll have to, I don't know. I'm going to take a look at Perfect Effects upgrade kit for him if it's out or when it's out, and see if it does anything to him that I feel it needs to do and improve on. I don't know. Anyhow, Bruticus is cool. Just wanted to touch base on him because, yeah, I have recently completed him. And now he's doing that weird leaning thing that he does. Anyhow, so much like what my friend Darth Devious Kevin said in his review of Masterpiece Ironhide, boom, I want to talk about the reception that Ironhide got, in particular the flack that he got. I frankly do not understand that flack. How are we now so accepting of this highly flawed mold? And yes, I'm using Red Ridge as the example because I sold Trax to Caked Up, who then sold it to one of his friends. How are we so accepting of this highly flawed and very imperfect mold and masterpiece figure now, and how are we slagging on this? We find the pettiest things to get upset about in this fandom, in this community, and while I understand where people are coming from with their gripes with Ironhide here, a lot of the gripes are just kind of unwarranted. If you're mad about these hip skirts, do the modification. I'm frankly never going to do the modification because I think it makes the figure look like shit, especially on the hips. But there's a lot of people that are slagging on this figure for the aesthetic, basically from the waist up. And I, to be perfectly honest, do not get that. There was one fairly well-known reviewer who said that he did not like Masterpiece Ironhide here and was going to put him towards the back of his Masterpiece shelf because it didn't match his aesthetic that he had in mind for Ironhide. So because a mass release from Takara Tomy doesn't match your specific aesthetic that you have in mind for Ironhide based off the animation model from over 30 years ago, you're going to put this figure towards the back of your collection. Explain that to me. Explain that logic to me, because last I checked, Takara doesn't tailor their releases specifically for any one collector. If you don't like the aesthetic that Ironhide has here, either in the photos or whatever coverage he gets that you see, don't get him. If you're going to get him only to say, oh, I don't like his aesthetic, then you wasted your money, in my opinion. I don't care how high profile of a reviewer you are. If you're going to get him to complain about his aesthetic, then you wasted your money. I, for one, think it's amazing that we got this boxy and albeit slightly portly, but did you really expect him to not be portly with the curvature of this section in the van mode from the alt mode? I'm not going to transform Ironhide here on camera because that would take up the rest of the time that I have, and I want to do a direct upload for this video like I've been doing with the others that I've done. the fact that we got this and this in the same Masterpiece figure is amazing. The fact that we got a boxy, really cool, albeit portly, as I just said, looking robot mode from that van mode right there on the packaging is, frankly, really, really cool to me. Yes, is it weird that he came with some accessories that he only used maybe once or twice in the show? Yeah. But this is a really nicely done, really glorious figure. I mean, for crap's sake. Really, Zach? Come on. He is virtually kibble free. Let's pop this off, because honestly, I'm just having that on him just for the sake of I don't know what. Not really a fan of how that looks on him. And take a look at him, his back profile. He's virtually kibbleless. If you're going to complain about how this looks, why aren't you complaining about a third-party release like Sun Surge here, who's gotten a fuck ton of coverage, or even Make Toys' Hound? I feel like any criticisms you could level against Ironhide here, you could also level against in some way Make Toys' Hound or Bad Cube's Sun Surge. No Masterpiece figure is going to be perfect or exactly what we want it to be. So why not just be content with what they are and find the good points in those figures? To be perfectly honest, there is a fuck ton of good, pardon my language, because I know there are a few families that watch my channel, I think at least, in Ironhide here. As I believe I've already said, and I'm just going to reiterate it, or iterate it if I didn't say it, Ironhide here is an early contender for me for my favorite figure of this year. He is that damn good, in my opinion. Is he perfect? No. He has his quirks and his flaws and everything. Specifically, I'm not really a fan of how these sections right here, these graphite gray sections in here, do have a tendency to come untabbed without these support pieces on either side of his head. And there's other quirks of Ironhide here that I'm not the biggest fan of. But no Transformer, Masterpiece, third party, first party, whatever, is ever going to be perfect. So why not just accept these figures for what they are? Just saying. Anyhow, that's that rant done. Just wanted to say my piece on all that. Yeah, anyhow. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.